In 2018, court papers showed that Maria Bartiromo planned out Trump's interview answers ahead of time. She sent him a text message to keep him in the loop. Bill Barr said she yelled at him to stop Biden from winning. Before she spread rumors about a plot, she won an Emmy. Even so, she still lives in a townhouse in Manhattan that costs $6.5 million and has private security cams. Her beach house has a dock for boats. But now that she has lost respect, not even her friends from CNBC will come see her. The house stays in great shape. The bad name stays hurt. This woman was born in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn on September 11, 1967. After many years, no one could have imagined that this date would become one of the worst in American history. Still, the girl born that day would go on to become one of the most recognizable faces on financial TV, reporting from the middle of Wall Street. The many Italian-American families that lived in her neighborhood helped shape her early morals. Back then, more than 40,000 Italian-Americans lived in Bay Ridge, making it one of the biggest Italian-American neighborhoods outside of Italy. Her parents, Vincent and Josephine, were born in Italy and came to the United States during the Great Movement from 1880 to 1920. They were going after the dream, and Maria would change it. Years before Maria ever worked in the news, her grandfather was writing a piece about her. Carmine Bartiromo crossed the Atlantic Ocean on the Rex in 1934. A huge Italian ocean ship that was the pride of Mussolini's rule. It wasn't just a ship. That time, no cruise ship could cross the ocean faster than the 51,000-ton Marble. It was covered in marble and lights. 5 years before the war, Carmine's trip put him in Brooklyn, which would not have been possible at that time. When he got there, he built Rex Manor, an Italian restaurant that became famous in the area. Over 50 people worked there at its height, and more than 200 weddings were held there every year. It was more than just a place to eat for 3 generations. People made deals there, got married there, and got together with their groups. Maria entered that world when she was only 14 years old. At a time when most kids her age were doing chores, she was at Rex Manor checkcoats. It wasn't just a job though, it was her first time being in charge. Politicians, business people, and real estate moguls from the area always seemed to be in the place. Every night she stood only a few feet away from the men who were making huge choices. Before she learned it, she heard the language of power. Others learned about economics from books, but she learned it from talking to real people. The weekends turned into her school, and Maria was getting ready for the business world she would one day cover without even realizing it. That was not the case with her mother, Josephine. She worked as a teller at off-track betting in the 1970s and 1980s. At its peak, OTB dealt with more than $1.5 billion a year. In other words, Maria saw her mom handle huge amounts of cash, sometimes more than a bank worker would handle in a week. Men were yelling about races, making huge bets, and lighting cigarettes one after the other in the betting parlors. Josephine stayed calm, focused, and smart through it all. Maria saw what risk looked like for herself. She saw riches disappear in an instant. She saw people lose everything and win a lot of money. She also learned how to handle money well, keep her cool under pressure, and never take cash for granted. Then Monday nights came along. Every week, Maria saw her dad sit at the kitchen table with bills, records, and ledgers all around him. Vincent did more than just pay his bills. The heart of the family business was on his mind. He did the math by hand, because he didn't have a computer nearby. He made sure that the prices of food, payroll, and taxes were all equal to the very last penny. Since restaurants only make 3 to 4%, every little thing was important. Maria took it all in. There was real work to do, real worry, and real issues to solve. It helped her in a way that school couldn't. She knew about business margins before she ever wrote a news script, how to keep a small business going, and how much cash it had. When she got to New York University, she chose to study economics because she thought it made the most sense. Others had trouble with complicated theories and calculations, but she had no trouble at all. She wasn't aware of it yet, but she was getting ready for a job that didn't exist yet. At that time, less than 30% of economics majors were women, and even fewer went on to work in TV. Even so, she didn't think she was unique. She liked being able to solve things. But again, her mother made everything different. Joshni told her one day, "You'd be good at writing." That idea wasn't just a chance thought. With ease, Josephine had seen her daughter talk about hard ideas at the dinner table. Maria was pretty. She was clear. She could make hard things easy to understand. So Maria added writing to her already busy schedule as a junior. She had to start from scratch in a whole new field while still going to economics class. She made it work though. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to join a field that needed someone just like her. She worked on the weekends at the same off-track betting shop where her mom worked to make extra money. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. She saw how people acted when they had money, were stressed, were excited, and thought they were in charge. Risk made her feel a lot of different emotions, which taught her how to quickly read people. In the future, those skills would help her stay calm under pressure, read the room, and ask tough questions on live TV. Not every job went well. People fired her from Kleinfeld's, a well-known bridal shop, because she tried on wedding dresses while she was meant to be working. She wasn't being lazy. The beauty of everything was giving her a break. She learned something important from that mistake though. Be there, do your job, and keep your mind on it. She learned something from it that she will never forget. She earned 2 degrees in 1989, one in economics, and one in writing. Time couldn't have been better for that. There was a lot more cable news. It was time for CNBC to start. Again, Wall Street was doing very well. Networks needed someone who knew both the numbers and how to talk about them all of a sudden. Maria was one of those rare people. The path Maria Bartiromo took to become a TV host wasn't a glamorous dream come true. It was messy, hard, and almost crazy. She began working at CNN as a production helper in 1988, and made only $15,000 a year. But it was hard to even get that job. She was turned down more than once. She wore business clothes every day and stood outside CNN's doors until someone shot her. That amount of need was real. The job itself, a lot of things that most news graduates would laugh at, like getting coffee, organizing scripts, and running the teleprompter. But Maria stayed up late every night, studying market reports and CEO names like she was studying for a test that no one else knew about. The guards began to call her the ghost, because she left the building last every time. She worked her way up to become an executive producer in 5 years, when at CNN it usually took twice that long. Lou Dobbs, a well-known newscaster, didn't think much of her at first. She worked hard and impressed him even though he thought she was just another intern. She had to do more and more difficult jobs, until he put her in charge of live market crash coverage during the recession of 1990. Jobs that other people didn't want. She hit them. In 1993, she told Dobbs she was going to work for CNBC. That hurt him a lot. As her boss and someone who had created her future, he told her it was a bad idea. He even offered to pay her twice as much to keep her. She did walk though. Not long after that, she was the first person to report live from the New York Stock Exchange, something Dobbs had said she wasn't ready for. People didn't see how Maria learned how to be on TV all by herself, without any help or permission. She would stay 3 or 4 hours after her 12-hour shifts to use CNN's equipment to film fake shows. It was dangerous. She could have been fired if anyone found out. But she made over 200 test reels behind their backs by giving camera crews homemade Italian food as a gift. She also bought blank tapes with her own money. At 5 a.m., she read Wall Street Journal articles out loud in front of her bathroom mirror to get better. She copied Tom Brokaw's speed, Dan Rather's voice, and Katie Couric's warmth. One time, one of her fake shows almost played on live TV because of a mistake. That almost shut the show down, but it proved she was already good enough that no one would have known the difference. In the beginning, CNN's business department was a joke. A 5-minute report in the morning, and a longer one in the afternoon, are the only shows. Business news didn't interest anyone. The money, about $200,000 a year. That's how much other sections spent on snacks. Prices for stocks were written down by hand on chalkboards. Market information was sent by fax machines. Interviews took place on landlines that were very loud. Maria had to use payphones during her breaks to call sellers and get useful information. However, she stayed and watched as business TV became a huge hit. Things had changed a lot when she left in 1993, and she took everything she learned right to CNBC. But it wasn't just brave to leave CNN, it was almost careless. There was a $50 million a year loss for CNBC. There was no one around. People in the media were betting that it wouldn't last another 2 years. People who work with Maria begged her not to go. They gave her a list of facts. She was told that 73% of cable business attempts failed. As a backup, her dad gave her a job at his restaurant in Brooklyn. CNN was going to give her a raise and job security for 5 years. CNBC gave her $45,000 with no promises. At first, only 10,000 people watched her shows, but she didn't mind, because she saw something that no one else did. Everything changed after her live reports from the NY. CNBC went crazy. What people called a mistake turned out to be the best thing she ever did. Roger Ailes hired her to replace a top analyst in 1993, when he was just starting to build CNBC. He was after more than just another anchor. He wanted someone to make Wall Street feel like a real place. She was only 26 years old, but he had faith in her. He let her appear on shows like Market Watch and Squawk Box because he thought she could break into the TV world of finance like the cool kids. She did it. When Squawk Box came out in 1995, It changed everything. It used interviews and discussion along with market research. It wasn't stiff or dull, it was new. Maria helped make it happen. Because she did so well on Squawk Box, she was asked to be on other shows, like Closing Bell and The Business of Innovation, which helped build CNBC's brand for years. But it wasn't easy to get into the trade floor. The NYSE wasn't made for TV, and women were never meant to be there. Traders didn't want her there. Some of them were downright mean. One told her to just go along with it. A powerful broker named Mike Robbins made it his goal to make her miserable. It was bad interviews and he yelled at people not to talk to her. To get away from him, she had to change the way she walked inside the building. Someone rammed a huge computer trading device into her back so hard during one live show that she had to go to the New York Stock Exchange medical office for help. Traders would always run into her because they knew she was real. Some people told her she'd never make it. There wasn't even a real bathroom for women close to her building. To use the bathroom, she had to go down to the basement. In spite of everything, she made history on August 4, 1995. She was the first TV reporter to report live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. She was only 27 years old. There was one camera, one mic, and a lot of traders. It was very loud, very scary, and intimidating. But that show changed everything. People at home could see what was really going on all of a sudden. It wasn't just numbers they heard. They were seeing what was happening right then and there. It wasn't smooth, but it was honest and raw. It was liked by many. Every day, people bumped into her 5'5" frame. She had to shout to be heard above the noise. Traders would sometimes yell at her while she was broadcasting. She had to ask a seller to move out of the way once while she was in the middle of a report. It was written about in The Guardian. People told her it looked like she had to fight her way through a sea of chaos to bring the news. She kept going though. She said, "I got pushed around a bit, but it was fun." It was because no one had ever done what she was doing before. There was a whole new way of reporting when Maria showed up. Live, instant, and in the present. No more hearing about market results after the fact. People who watched saw the deals happen live. It was traders like George who taught her how to make deals, how flows worked, and how the market really moved. How she knew what was going on behind the scenes gave her an edge. What she did wasn't just a report. She told us why it was important. She helped make it possible for regular people to trust Wall Street, which had never been possible before. But fame brought a different kind of interest. Roger Ailes called her Money Honey, and the name stuck. Some people really liked it. Some people thought it was insulting. At first, Maria didn't like it, but in 2007 she tried to get a title for it. And not just for TV shows. For toys, games, and even action figures. Then she hired a lawyer and filled out all the forms. Then she quickly gave up on the whole plan. It's possible that she no longer needed the name. She had already made a lot of money and signed a new long-term deal. She was the brand. It didn't matter what the name was. The rock scene was one of the stranger parts of her story. The lead singer of the band The Ramones, Joey Ramone, became crazy about her. He would email her fake questions about real things, like AOL and Amazon. She thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. He invested a lot of money. He wrote a song called Maria Bartiromo in the end, and told her to come hear it live. On his solo record, Don't Worry About Me, which came out in 2002 after he died, it was all about her. He sang her name over and over and asked what was going on with Wall Street. The song, which was a punk ode to a financial reporter, even got to number 109 on the Billboard charts. That's something that only Maria could do. Everything changed when Maria Bartiromo took over CNBC's Closing Bell in 2002. An end-of-day market wrap used to be an easy event that everyone had to watch. She turned that last hour of trading into live entertainment for the next 11 years. She had CEOs and other market leaders on the show at the same time that stock prices were changing. People from hedge funds to small traders to big institutions all paid attention because what they said could change markets in real time. They didn't just watch, they did something. Executives knew that being on her show could make people buy or sell shares in their company. Some people even changed their plans just to sit next to her before the bell rang. She had more than one stage though. She also took over the Wall Street Journal story and made it right on the mark. It became the most watched American business news show. It wasn't like she was the host, the managing editor and the executive producer all at the same time. She chose the guests herself and set the mood. Her talks with Alan Greenspan and Warren Buffett were more than just news. They were making history. People watched not only to find out what happened, but also to see what would happen next. Big economic policies and plans were first discussed on her show. Not only did people like what she built, it was also very strong. In 2008, Congress was debating a $700 billion bailout. Maria was on the radio when the talks broke down. The markets crashed and chaos broke out, but she stayed sharp. A TV award was given to her for that. She got a Gracie Award that same year for her film about Greenspan. She wasn't just telling the truth. At times she was with people who were losing everything on Wall Street and writing history in real time. Her voice stood out in the noise because it was cool and objective. She did a great job at one of the most important times in American business journalism. The Financial Times named her one of the 50 faces that shaped the decade the next year, in 2009. On that list were tech billionaires, leaders, and central bankers. Maria was one of the few from the media, but she deserved it. She had spent the last 10 years figuring out what was going on during emergencies like the dot-com crash, 9/11 and the housing crash. The talk shows she did affected stock prices. Her questions got a lot of attention. It was her stage that the Fed used to get people to understand something. She wasn't just telling people what happened, she also changed how people thought about it. To make even more history, she was the first woman ever to be admitted into the Cable Hall of Fame in 2011. That award had always been given to CEOs, founders, and moguls. But this time the business world saw how powerful her voice was. A whole new group of people watched TV news because of her unique live floor reporting and exclusive interviews. It was also a moment where everything came full circle. Lou Dobbs told her years ago that leaving CNN was a big mistake. In front of an industry that had doubted her before, she was now holding one of its greatest awards. Power played a big role in her daily life as well. She married Jonathan Steinberg in 1999. He is the son of Saul Steinberg, who is known as one of Wall Street's most notorious business raiders. The small event took place at the Steinberg home in Quogue, but the wedding was huge. A famous person married into a wealthy family. They went on dates for almost 10 years after meeting in 1990 and have been together ever since. Jonathan now runs Wisdom Tree Investments, a company that was worth $77.7 billion a long time ago. The stock of the company has dropped 79% since its high point, and owners are calling for him to step down. However, the couple stays together. Their dog Dusty has an Instagram account with over 3,600 fans, even though they don't have any kids. Something strange happened right before that wedding. A floor custom was done by the NYSE traders, many of whom had made fun of her and doubted her in the past. They chained her ankle and put a ball on it. It was a joke, but it was also a sign. It meant she was okay with it. In a place where respect wasn't easy to come by, especially for women, she had earned it. Years later at a party, one of the sellers who had scolded her before asked her to forgive him. It was hers. Maria's hard work really paid off. Her husband Jonathan and she bought a home in Manhattan for $6.5 million in 2000, and that was $300,000 less than what the previous owners paid 3 years before. There was a camera system and a 39-foot private yard on the 5th-story house, which made it very safe. This is almost never seen in New York. The house had a grand kitchen, 4 stoves that burned wood, and a wet bar between the dining room and the drawing room. They had been renting before that. It was a smart first move for them as a power pair. The West Hampton estate then came along. It's about 9,000 square feet and cost about $8 million. The house has 8 bathrooms, 7 bedrooms, and a private dock where yachts can dock. There are 7 fireplaces in the house, a chef's kitchen with 2 islands, and 3 bathrooms in the master bedroom, each with its own steam shower. Their weekends are wholly there, 14-mile bike rides, walks on the beach, and holding high-class events on the huge decks and bars by the pools. This isn't just a cottage for the summer. It stands for everything they did. The 2 homes are worth about $14.5 million altogether. But what's crazy is how Maria keeps everything in check. 6 days a week, she gets up at 3:30 a.m. Every week she hosts 16.5 hours of shows for Fox Business and Fox News. Mornings with Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street, and Sunday Morning Futures are some of her shows. Not even enough time to sleep in that. She does yoga once or twice a day, and takes short naps when she can. It was all good for Maria Bartiromo. There's a reason she's called Money Honey and has worked at CNBC for 20 years. In 1995, she was the first reporter to report live from the New York Stock Exchange floor. Her reputation was built on being honest and telling the truth. But in November 2013, she shocked the world of financial news. This was her last day at CNBC after 20 years. The news came out right after her 20th wedding anniversary. She was going to Fox Business Network. It wasn't a little jump. Fox did not just offer her money. They said they would give her $5 to $6 million a year. Then the $4 million she made at CNBC. The real bait, though, was being seen. It was too good for CNBC. Fox gave her a government show on their main station every Sunday morning. It reached a lot more people, and they gave her the chance to make something new and change the way a brand looked. CNBC was taken off guard and had planned to tell everyone about her leaving the day before her last show. The news came out first, though. It wasn't just a job change. It was one of the ugliest things ever seen on television news. Roger Ailes, the CEO of Fox News, himself found Maria years ago and personally brought her back. Fox said their business network would have more than just a show. They gave her power, fame, and the political spot on Sunday that she had always wanted. That wasn't allowed on NBC. That spot was already owned by Meet the Press. CNBC tried to keep her, but Fox made an offer that they couldn't refuse. Maria agreed to the terms, but she had to wait. Her deal with CNBC ended on November 24, and she couldn't work for anyone else for 60 days, so she couldn't go on TV until January. When she finally did make her Fox appearance, it was a slow build-up. It began on February 24, 2014, with Maria Bartiromo and her in the lead role. It played during the week, from 9 to 11 a.m. That show changed its name to Mornings with Maria, and moved to a better time, 6 to 9 a.m. slot. It turned Fox Business into what it is today. That wasn't all, though. She began Sunday morning features on Fox News every Sunday. Very quickly, it turned into one of the most watched political shows on TV. In 2017, she added Wall Street with Maria Bartiromo, which airs every Friday at 8 p.m. She gained more power. In 2018, an amazing event took place. During the second quarter, more people watched her morning show than CNBC's Squawk Box. 1009,000 compared to 104,000. Fox Business had never won before. It had been 4 years since CNBC had such low numbers. Fox changed its whole plan so that Maria would be the main focus. The show by Stuart Varney was moved. Some new shows were added. She became the public face of their bank. Then there was the Republican primary discussion in 2015. Maria and Neil Cavuto both helped to manage it. More than 13.5 million people watched, including 3.7 million people in the important age group of 25 to 54. It was the most people who had ever watched Fox Business, even though only 82 million homes had the network compared to 93 million homes with CNBC. It almost had the same number of viewers. Even more, they broke records that night by having 1.4 million people watching at the same time on their live show. That year, only 1.3 million people watched the Super Bowl. In January 2016, Fox Business held another discussion that 11 million people watched. Maria was the heart of both. Happiness did not come free, though. While the 2016 election was going on, Bartiromo became close with Donald Trump on TV. She talked to him 12 times between 2017 and 2021. She didn't argue much. People said that her talks let false claims go without being checked. By 2024, Trump was even thinking about her as a possible running mate. Many people told us he was serious. He liked how she dealt with donors. I loved seeing her on TV. In an interview in 2018, she got in trouble because she didn't correct Trump's false information. Some people said she didn't just accept lies, they said she helped spread them. Now that 2020 is over, things are worse. Trump's first TV talk after the election was on November 29, just a few weeks after he lost. Later, court papers showed that the interview was partly planned. She had planned ahead of time to ask Trump's team questions. In texts, she asked Trump's chief of staff to make sure Trump stuck to the plan. She texted, "People want to know if he will fight this." She said on radio that we can't let fraud happen in the American election, but she never asked him to back up what he said. It wasn't just that caused trouble. It made her very angry that Attorney General Bill Barr wasn't doing anything to stop what she called election theft. Barr said later that was yelling. "I yelled back, 'She's gone crazy.'" Maria said that wasn't true, and that Barr was the one yelling. But even Trump's supporters were shocked by how she acted. It had never been done before for a reporter to call the Attorney General and demand action in that way. After that, there were cases. CNN called the election for Biden on November 8, 2020. That same day, Maria was the first Fox host to say the name Dominion. Fox News lost $787.25 million because of that one moment. Dominion sued, and court papers showed that the claim came from a single email that had not been checked out, from a Minnesota woman. Checking, researching, and following up were not done. There was only one conspiracy idea that was presented as fact. A second case was filed because of that mistake and other lies about Smartmatic voting software. This one cost $2.7 billion. A judge said Maria and others didn't care about the truth at all. Smartmatic tools were only used in Los Angeles County, but Maria's show said they were changing votes all over the US. The change shocked everyone. A foe of the media named Brian Stelter said it best. Maria Bartiromo used to be a famous and feared reporter, But now she sits behind a desk and tells the president to lie. Her friends were shocked. Dylan Ratigan, a former co-worker at CNBC, called her an icon for her age. Susanna Andrews of Vanity Fair said she seemed to have risen above her level of ability. Maria used to be known for tough, direct interviews and Emmy-winning reporting. Now critics called her talks T-ball soft, staged, and full of conspiracy.